Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. We will have a roll call.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Fox?
Here.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Here.
I myself am here. Dr. Blau?
I am also here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Yes.
I move that we approve today's agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the agenda by Mr. Rich, supported by Ms. Heinrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Now we have a report from our student roundtable.
And I see Cheyenne is just walking in, so we will welcome her to the podium. We have Cheyenne Weems from our student roundtable to give us an update and a report.
Good afternoon.
Last week, on December 12th, Student Roundtable met and centered our discussions around prompts presented by IDEA in regards to evaluating the diversity, equity, and inclusion in our educational community. We conversed about the student perspective concerning topics like microaggressions and stereotypes often experienced by a diverse population of our schools. Members of the Student Roundtable brought up that certain words and phrases considered to be offensive are often thrown around in our halls much too casually. Collectively, we found that attempts to educate people about such issues have not been successful due to two major reasons. One being the general gap that exists between us students and speakers, and secondly, the lack of impact which is possibly due to the delivery.
Oops, sorry. Oh, it's not on. Were you able to hear the?
We could hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. The second reason is possibly due to the delivery of the information. These two problems, we believe, are most pressing when discussing how to better our youth when it comes to being more inclusive and accepting of individuals. In our meeting, we also discussed how to introduce younger generations to IDEA in an effective way that is not overwhelming. By starting with the By starting with still developing minds of our community, we believe that this, coupled with more impactful education around equity and inclusion, will increase the overall quality of our learning environments and Farmington Public Schools as a whole.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Weems, and I think you might be related to somebody up here. I'm not really sure.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay. I know that you wear several hats. So on Student Roundtable, are you all considering doing at all the schools what you did during the football season when you all had the, what was it that you had, the what do you call those, the food trucks and everything? Are you all thinking about doing that throughout the whole district? Because that was really fun and it was really nice.
I appreciate it. That was not Student Roundtable. That was the Black Student Union at North Farmington High School. It is not planned in our books just yet, but it's something that we're looking forward to doing in the spring and or summertime.
Can you make sure we get an invitation, and happy holidays to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays to you all as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday.
This is a pretty good.
All right. Thank you again. Next, items from the president. We thank you for your interest in attending or viewing our FPS Board of Education meetings. The Open Meetings Act requires that all meetings of the Board of Education be held in public.
As a result, our board meetings are the only place and time that we as a board can legally work together on district matters. While these board meetings are held in public for the purpose of full transparency, they are not public meetings. While you are welcome to attend our board meetings in person or watch from elsewhere, we must take the time needed to address, discuss, and hear presentations on all matters of importance to our work for the district. We, the members of the FPS Board of Education, together with our superintendent, Dr. Delgado, agree to abide by the following standards of behavior when interacting with one another, both during our board meetings and elsewhere, even when we disagree with one another's points of view. Listen actively, no sidebars. Respect people and ideas. Presume positive intent. Use electronic devices respectfully and stay engaged. Listen to learn, not to defend. Be brave and be vulnerable. We thank our community members for abiding by these standards of behavior as well. I had an opportunity to see some of our innovative teaching and learning in action this past week at two of our schools. Several of us were able to attend the project-based learning presentations that were given by students at Power Middle School. Ms. Heinrich or Mr. Rich, would you like to share any of what you observed?
How much time do I have?
Go for it.
All right. So, yeah, this was awesome. I mean, as an educator, you know, we talked about, I've gone to conferences with project-based learning and, oh, you got to do it, you got to do it. Well, not only is our district doing project-based learning, but they're doing it right. And I want to thank Dr. Delgado for setting up these invitations to actually witness. And I don't have my notes with me. I wrote down the company that we're working with. So it's a, what is it called?
New Tech Network.
New Tech Network. And so there's a process where the teachers have been trained, they have support, they have, they're working together. It's really a big risk for teachers. It's really hard to do, but there's across the curriculum, interdisciplinary. I mean, it's all these things that you read about, you go to conferences, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, and then you go back to your school and it's business as usual. Whereas in Farmington, it's not business as usual, and it's so exciting as a member of the Board of Education to be able to support this work. And so to make sure that we have the right people in place that is doing the work, and they have the right people to support the staff. And it's a win-win for our students, for our staff, and for everyone. And so when we talk about improving student outcomes, it takes time, but we're moving the needle in the right direction. And it's just nice to, and you know, you don't see what's going on in the classrooms all the time. And these kids are just fantastic. I mean, when I was like a sixth grader, I would never be able to present, you know, my project to adults in the way that they did. So really life skills in addition to the academic skills. I could go on, but that's enough.
Thank you, Ms. Heinrich. Mr. Rich?
I think it was just a very clear example of why project-based learning is just so important. It's one thing to just memorize concepts such as how does water get into our soil, what does runoff do, how does that erosion happen, and how it impacts our local community, not just you know, to the extent of the Grand Canyon, but to the extent of our sidewalks cracking or or our driveways being to the point that they need to be replaced. There's memorization of that. Then there's the, okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean in everyday life? How do we go through this? And what you see is students not just reciting off facts that they memorized, it's being able to conduct and be part of in-depth conversations on these topics that go past just the standards of the just topic as a whole, but it's actually the, okay, how can we then take this and continue using it in day-to-day life? So I think it's really incredible because it's something that, you know, sometimes if you're just memorizing things, you remember it now, you might not remember it in a week or two from now, but once you know how to actually apply it, that is what keeps it in your mind forever. So it was great to see, and I know that this is starting up here and going throughout our district, so very excited to see next steps.
Yes. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, those of us who weren't able to be there, as well as our community, this was an interdisciplinary unit that combined social studies and science, as well as ELA, and there was some math in there as well, where students were given a problem. There was a community that was experiencing flooding in the downtown area when there would be, when it would rain. And in this particular community, there was land that was donated, both a parking lot and then another piece of land where there had been a structure, but now it was a field. And the land is being donated to this community, and the students had to help decide what should be built in those two places. And they had to consider a variety of criteria to determine what would be appropriate to be built in these two spaces. They had to do research on how water behaves depending upon the structure that they might build there. If they built a skate park or an indoor water park, or if they built a rain garden or a playground. And so they then did experiments with models in their classroom to learn how water behaves. So they didn't just read about it in a chapter in their textbook. They experimented and discovered for themselves how water behaves depending upon these different structures that might be built. And then they had a lot of information that they were given that they had to analyze with regards to the cost of building different kinds of things in these spaces. To what extent would whatever they built be useful to the community? Would it meet the needs of the young kids? Would it meet the needs of the seniors? Would it meet the needs of families, of teenagers? And they had to maximize the utilization of the space in the community. So the students worked in small groups to pull together all of this information, discuss it, analyze it, evaluate it, and then make some decisions about what they felt would be the best expenditure of money, the best for the community, the best in terms of preventing additional flooding in the community. They developed PowerPoint presentations, which they then presented to us earlier this week, and it was phenomenal. This was but the first of many of these types of interdisciplinary learning studies that students will be doing this year, and they did such a phenomenal job on their first one. When we talk about the kinds of things that are happening at the Farmington STEAM Academy, these are the kinds of things that are happening at the Farmington STEAM Academy that are also happening in our other schools. So we strive for equity across all of our buildings, and this is one of the ways in which we are making that happen. So thank you again to the students and the teachers for their presentation. Yes, Ms. Hyman.
And let me add also, it also, we got to witness the teaming model that we introduced in our middle schools, and that's something that back when my kids were in school years ago, Mike Flanagan might have been our superintendent back then, but they did have teaming, and with budget cuts and financial constraints, that went away because it's more expensive to implement because the teachers have not only their planning time, but they also have their team planning time. And it was nice to see how the teaming model is working. And so if they needed more time with, their science one day or their social studies one day, and math was involved also. I mean, they were talking about budgetary constraints and things like that. And these are things that I taught in high school with my students, and these were sixth graders. So there's all these things going on, this flexible scheduling and knowing this and just seeing how the teachers are supported in doing this work. It's really exciting to see these things put into practice.
And the students were able to clearly articulate the ways in which this style of experiential hands-on learning was meaningful to them, made the concepts more accessible and memorable to them. Another example, I visited a first grade this week. They had done, this was at the Farmington STEAM Academy. The first graders gave a learning assembly where they shared what they've been learning so far this year about sound. First graders, it was amazing. So first they spoke about how they started the unit by going on a listening walk and all the different kinds of things they heard. Some of the things that they expected and some things that they hadn't noticed before. Then they began to do some experiments with sound. Things like the teachers brought in bells of all different sizes, and the students figured out by experimenting with the bells, oh, the smaller bells make a higher pitched sound, and the larger bells make a lower pitched sound, and they were able to feel the vibrations of the bells. They did the experiment with the string and the cups to, again, feel the vibrations, see the string vibrating. Ultimately, they were learning also about sound waves, and to help make sound waves visible to these first graders, the teachers put saran wrap, clear plastic wrap, on top of big bowls, and then banged two metal spoons or two somethings together to make a loud noise, and it caused the grains of rice to bounce on top of the saran wrap. So again, making visible the invisible. And while first graders probably don't have a full understanding of sound and sound waves, they have a pretty rich experience already around sound. They then worked with their art and music teachers to make their own pan flutes, and then played Mary Had a Little Lamb for everyone. So it was a very, again, interdisciplinary, rich learning experience for our students. So those are just two examples of the kinds of teaching and learning opportunities that are happening throughout our schools. And that is all for my announcements. Next, we have correspondence from Mr. Rich.
Thank you. The board has received correspondence on the FPS proclamation, an invitation to the sculpture dedication in Brooklyn's Garden at Lanigan Elementary, and a fictional conversation. Correspondence has been noted and responded to when appropriate.
Thank you. Next, we have our legislative update. Mr. Rich.
Nothing further right now to really announce with the House being out of session right now.
Thank you. District updates, Dr. Delgado.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. Good evening, everyone. Several updates. So first of all, congratulations to our DECA crew, our Falcon DECA crew. We had 49 of our Farmington High School Falcons participated and earned a total of 89 medals that were awarded to 40 students who are now earning the right to compete at the DECA state competition on March 14th to 16th in Detroit. And I'm sure we will see them at a future board meeting. There are too many names to read, but congratulations to all of our DECA students. Middle school robotics, we are nearly entering the first robotics season for the high school, but middle school robotics has already been at it. We have two teams, and we're trying to get a third team. The power team recently was recognized for their outstanding presentation, receiving a judges award at the Lake Orion qualifying tournament back on November 18th. And the STEAM bots from STEAM received a second place for the design award and a first place for their Think Award, recognizing their outstanding engineering portfolio. And we're looking to expand those teams. We have robotics at our elementary, at our middle, and certainly at our high school, and they love to come back and bring their robots. So congratulations to all of our middle school robotics teams. Another recognition. Farmington High School has made the top 100 list of Michigan high schools with the U.S. News and World Report. We're very excited. In the 23-24 school year, they're ranked as number 52 in the state of Michigan, number 22 in Metro Detroit. And so we wanted to congratulate all of the dedicated staff and administration there at Farmington High School for making the U.S. News and World Report best high schools. Additionally, we have I had a wonderful opportunity to attend a debate, a presidential general election debate of our students at Farmington High School. And this was just this past Thursday, where students prepared from all of the different parties. We had all of our different presidents and vice presidents of the primary, it was a primary debate. This was their second one, and so they prepared debate topics, including topics on national security, foreign policy, immigration, election integrity, Supreme Court vacancy, environment and climate change, healthcare and abortion, education, and the economy. So this was a 2-hour debate that was moderated by our incredible teachers, and so I really appreciate all of the authentic tasks that were put together. So our teachers, Jeremy Gold, Emily Burkett, and Mr. Anthony Pata, who put this experience together for students. I can tell you they took this very seriously. They prepared intensely. They were not allowed to have any notes, and so this was all by memory, by preparation, and they debated all of these important topics, all while replicating one of our figures who are in the upcoming election. So this is the kind of authenticity we're trying to bring to our students so they really can apply what they're learning and not just regurgitate memorized learning. I also was excited to thank Dr. Coffin and Mrs. Hendrickson and their team for providing our Board of Education with the opportunity to see our initiatives, our instructional initiatives in action. This is now the second visit. We were able to go to Lanigan to see our K-2 foundational literacy skills, and as you mentioned, the New Tech Network at Power Middle School, and we're planning for proof of concept work at one of our high schools. So we appreciate the board members who are able to attend and look to do more in the future. And then two last things before we, actually one last thing before we watch a short video. So last night I had an incredible opportunity to meet with the COHA group. It's the Council of Homeowners Association. And so we were at the Farmington Hills City Council, Mrs. Bauman and myself, and we presented information about our school district and had really rich conversation, almost 2 hours with our COHA representatives about what they're hearing in their neighborhoods. And I asked them to open the meeting, tell me about those driveway conversations. When you walk your dog, when you go to the mailbox, what are people saying about Farmington Public Schools? And I said, don't sugarcoat it. Let's hear the good and the bad. And so we had a really engaging conversation. Then I presented some of the initiatives that we have in the district. So we formed that partnership, and we're looking to maintain connections with our homeowners and then any other kind of realtors and people in the area. So we've been trying to get that on the books for quite some time. Next up, if the IT crew is ready, Farmington Public Schools has a long-standing connection with Goodfellas, and you know that it's very charitable work and necessary work in our community. So our own TV10 students created this video to welcome us and learn about Goodfellas in our community.
Hi, my name is Richard Lerner. I'm chairman of the Farmington Area Goodfellows. With me today is John Dresden. He's the president of the Goodfellows. And you're in our 2023 warehouse. Each year, the Goodfellows borrow a warehouse building about 25,000 square feet from a landlord who happens to have an empty building. This year, we're out on Interchange Drive. 3 weeks ago, this building was empty, and today we're going to take you on a tour of it and show you what we've taken in. These are food boxes on this side. This is the food side of the building. This is an A box, and an A box has 2 rows of canned food, approximately 48 cans, plus boxed and packaged food. Each family gets an A box. Each family gets a B box, and that's, again, 48 cans down below and packaged in dry food. This is more dry food like ramen noodles, cereal. You can take a look down there. And then C boxes are for large families, and that's about half what you see in an A or B box. 3 or more children gets a C box. So all of these are ready to be delivered tomorrow, our delivery day. It's the last Saturday before Christmas. And we'll take a walk down this way if you like. This is Buddy, the official dog of the Goodfellows. These are senior boxes, and seniors get 2 boxes. One is full of food. Seniors get more proteins, less vegetables. That's what they need to eat. So again, 2 rows of cans. All of these boxes are intended to give the families of the seniors approximately 6 to 8 weeks worth of food. Further down here, you'll see the diaper area. And so if the families that are applying for assistance have children with diapers, we try to give them a month's worth of diapers. This is Barb Dresden, our diaper coordinator and president of Neighborhood House. So when you see these boxes lined up here, they all have a family number on them. It tells the people loading the cars which family to pick. These are the second boxes for seniors. These are full of household items. And again, it's everything from toilet paper, shaving cream, And we wrap up some special gifts for them through the Senior Center at the Caustic Activity Center. Over here, you see bikes that are assembled and ready to go out. We've got a team of 3 people assembling bikes all week. And behind them, you see the toy boxes. And again, each toy box is assigned a family number. Each child, 12 or under, gets 3 toys from their list. We do the best we can to match up with what they're looking for. And so if you have a family of 3 children and 2 adults, you're going to get an A box, a B box, a C box, maybe a bicycle or toys for the children. You'll also get Target gift cards, $35 for each child, and you'll get grocery store cards, $60 for each child. This is the bike assembly area. We've had guys here assembling bikes for weeks. They're off today because everything is assembled at this point. Now we're moving over to the toy side of the building, and this is run by Toys for Tots. Toys for Tots is the Marine Corps Foundation organization that brings toys to children at Christmas time. So what you see here, this pile is the toys that came in one day, and they'll all now be sorted out and sent to the various areas we're going to visit next, sorted by age and gender. Unfortunately, this year's building didn't have plumbing, electricity in most of the building, or heat. So you see we had to string lights along the ceiling to be able to work in here this year, and a couple of tripod lights, but when you get a free building, you get what you get. So we use shopping carts, and right now, Rick here is sorting through the pile and looking for toys that go to a similar gender and age, and he'll take the cart when it's filled up and go to that table. So you see as we move through, all the toys in a particular area are very similar. They're generally sorted by age and gender. And Toys for Tots and the Goodfellows have been partners for almost 20 years now. Everything you see in this building will be back in our 2 storage containers about a week from now. So this entire building will be empty in another week. Most of it will be empty tomorrow morning by 11 o'clock.
And there's so much good in our community and so much connection. So thank you to all of our schools and and our community members for partnering with the Goodfellows to share in this really important and special tradition that we have here at Farmington Public Schools. And just one last thing for me, in my superintendent update, I have some thoughts at the end of the year here. As we near the beginning of our winter break and the end of another calendar year, I've been reflecting on what we've accomplished together in 2023 and what to be thankful for. I've also reflected on the feedback I receive as your superintendent through email, public comment, community coffees, and dialogues. I'm left with a few takeaways. Number one, we're recovering from COVID. Socially, behaviorally, academically, we're starting to catch up, we're starting to get back to normal, and we're starting to feel better. Number two, your schools are very safe. We've made monumental improvements in safety and security infrastructure and preparedness, and have excellent relationships with law enforcement. Number three, everyone belongs here in Farmington Public Schools, but not everybody feels that way. We celebrate diversity, as we're going to do tonight, but outreach efforts to certain portions of our school community are still needed, as some parents, students, and staff in our school district still don't feel fully embraced in our system. Fourth, we are making strides instructionally. We're seeing marked incremental increases on local assessments as well as encouraging trends on standardized tests. Now, you'll likely hear tonight or at a future meeting the familiar cherry-picked narrative that we're somehow a D school district. This references to a single category within the simplistic Michigan school grade report card that is fortunately being eliminated in Lansing. Yesterday, the report card came out with Farmington Public Schools receiving mostly A's and B's and favorable ratings on the 8 categories of student proficiency, student growth, graduation rate, English language learner progress, performance among peers, attendance, assessment, participation, and subgroup performance. Simply put, we don't need this report card to inform us of where we need to improve or to create any sense of urgency we don't already have. We already know, and we are laser-focused, working on it with our dedicated staff daily. And fifth, receptivity to genuine feedback from our community helps for continual improvement. I try to never take things personally and enjoy discussions with people who may be critical of our district because I truly believe that sincerely they want to make things better. Otherwise, they wouldn't take the time to reach out. Usually, we can have civil, even pleasant conversations about ways to improve. That's only if they're willing to come forward and if I'm and others are willing to be receptive. The Board of Education and I appreciate and encourage this continued dialogue. And finally, as your superintendent, I've heard directly from our community that you would like to see me be more vocal, maybe out front on issues that are higher profile, maybe on the news or in public sentiment. We've had a couple of issues this year. And even though we've worked diligently behind the scenes and worked with things that the community doesn't always know, I hear what you're saying is you'd like to hear more directly from me. So I hear you and I will work to do so. I'm very proud of the Farmington Public Schools, our dedicated staff, and our incredible students and families. And I wish you a wonderful holiday season with health, happiness, and joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado. Next, we have our FAAPN update.
And I see coming to the microphone, Mr. Thomas Hall, our president of FAAPN.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Hall, the president of Farmington African American Parent Network. And today, I'm doing an update and entitled, like always, What's Happening with FAAPN, December of 2023. Okay. As always, our mission statement, we always want to keep that in focus, to educate, empower, and energize our community, to navigate the educational system, gain access to opportunities, and influence the decisions that impact the success of our students. Here's our highlights of this year that we had starting back in September when we had the back-to-school kickoff with the pancakes for our Saturday tutoring. We see our superintendent going ahead and flipping some flapjacks there, and he did a good job with them coming out, pretty decent. So we did. That was very well attended. We had community members, board members, city council, and it was just a festive celebration to kick off our Saturday tutoring, in which that became a community event. Just instead of just a regular tutoring. And it brings a lot of people together and everything like that. Second slide would be our robotics, the Hackbots at Farmington. They went ahead and implemented a boot camp for our elementary students, and that went really fast. It was booked up. They had to cut off registration. They was at capacity. They are coming out with another boot camp in the near future, just to service the ones that couldn't get on. And they had so much fun there. They learned how to put together the robots, created some type of hovercraft thing with just a balloon and some straw. It's amazing what they do over there in our shop and everything. So they had a great time with the kids there. Also, we had a SAT, ACT boot camp, from exam experts that were sponsored by Farmington Hills Education Foundation. We had over 30 students there, and we had to cut it off because there was so many kids that were registering, and we offered it because of the Education Foundation at a steep discount, so more kids can get involved and find it very useful. The person who actually administered that, Mr. Mark Mayberry, he's a exam expert. He's phenomenal. And from the feedback that I get, his program, by going through his program, raises up the the ACT scores, depending on where you at. Several points we had kids that went through the program, such as our Lieutenant Governor, Gilchrist. He went through that same exact program. We had, well, I shouldn't really mention his name, but Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors. You know, he went through the program for Michigan State, and we had a whole bunch of other people that came through that was a story in which that one kid got into Harvard and Columbia by going through this program. It raised up his scores, and he was able to get another set of scholarship level. So this is the real deal. My kids gone through that, and they found it so helpful. It actually turned a light bulb on one of my kids who were kind of like, kind of straddling the fence in which that what he's going to do in his future. And after going through that, a light just turned on for him and said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm going to go ahead and start taking this stuff seriously." I say, "Thank you." So I don't care what it is. I'm glad that got him going. So it's a very, 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 very great program. And also the Coffee Conversations, if you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, that's a snapshot in which that the superintendent, Dr. Delgado, he came and gave a presentation, or not a presentation, he came and listened to the community. And so the community came in, and it was not a filtered, it didn't really have no really structure to it, but it was pretty much to say, "Hey, I'm at your kitchen table," type of thing. Tell me what you think, tell me what to improve on. And there are some comments that, I was like, okay, hopefully you didn't get beat up too much on. But, he took it as his courage. He was able to stand there and listen without getting into any kind of confrontations or arguments and everything like that. So he was receptive of that. And that then later on we were going to be debriefed on the actions that, the things that we have taken from that Coffee Conversations and start implementing them into the district. So that's what we have done so far. Here's our brochure that we're going to start focusing on. Now, on the right-hand side, was the proposed meetings. Due to some certain conflicts, we haven't gotten to that, but however, we are going to get to those particular meetings, our general meetings, and implement certain our programs that we want to do for the district, like we do always. And one of our first meetings is going to be in January, and which is going to be our general meeting. We haven't had one as of yet, just due to a lot of conflict of scheduling and everything like that. And we had an outreach in which people are concerned about the IEP, how to do, where the kids fall in with that, what kind of support they're going to receive, and just navigating through that whole system of that additional help that each child can actually have. So we're going to be putting on a general meeting with the professionals that know so much about it and how to navigate through that. Also, for our tutoring, that we're going to start. Our last tutoring was this past Saturday, and we're done until January 13th, which is Martin Luther King holiday weekend. We decided to go ahead and have it on that date due to the fact that the kid's going to be off from school for about 3 weeks, and then the following week is finals. So to make sure that the kids are not slacking behind just because they haven't been in school, we want to do a catch-up. And with that, our past Saturday, we had an increase of students that came through, which was the basketball team. The basketball team, the coach went ahead and started making it mandatory for them to come right before practice because they're there at the gym. They say, you need to go ahead and knock out your homework because, because this is a good dedicated time to get that so we don't have to worry about grades and all these other things. So with that, they made it, we had a great increase there last Saturday, and I realized how much snacks that we need to get now. That's like, wow, okay, that didn't last that long. So, so if you have any extra snacks and you want to just donate to the Saturday program, I'll take them. And with that, we have the coming up in January, we're going to be doing a career technical fair. We haven't got all the details out of it, but I want to have a career technical. We want to have a career technical fair in which that for like plumbing, electrician, medical, things in that nature. And also with that, we're going to have in February, we're looking to do like a Black History program like we did last time. And, since it's Saturday, I want to say it's probably right before we go on break for that. So we want to go ahead and start putting that together, get who's for presenters and stuff. And also with that, we're going to have the SAT, ACT exam come back in February as well, so we can get ready for the next test. So we're trying to do as much as we can to address a lot of the needs in our community, in which that we have always a captive audience. And with that in mind, if you have anybody or any kind of program that you want to promote that's a benefit for everyone, then you can come and you can just put it on our schedule. And then like the last half hour, 45 minutes on our Saturday program, we already have, now we're going to probably like doing 100 kids as a captive audience that we have that you can actually start presenting and, different things that parents may not know, because last 2 Saturdays ago, we had someone come in about financing your education, college education. So it's a whole bunch of great program there. And also, we're like a community center in which that people come in and start getting information from each other, so it's a community group. That's what the, what the goal of Farmington African Parent Network is, to communicate with each other, because a lot of us feel lost, doesn't know what direction to go, and just feel not part of a community. So we try to make a community atmosphere that's comfortable for everyone. With that, I want to thank you, have a special thanks out to the AKAs. They came out and really supported and for the volunteer help that we need. And also with the robotics team, a Black Student Union, also with the teachers, parents, a lot of some people that are high professional math, such as engineers and all that. They come and help out and help out with the higher level math. We really appreciate that. Of course, the Farmington Public School Administration, how they come out and support, which is phenomenal with the board members and even with the city council members and actually the mayor. I mean, this is I don't know. I get so emotional when I say it, because it's like just all hands in that we have everybody that participate in it. And I like the way it blossom out, for that. So with that, I believe I am finished. Any questions or comments or anything?
Ms. Smith?
Thank you for all you have done. What people don't understand and know is that you are not just in that building on Saturdays. You are in the community, as we know, as I know. I want to thank Ms. Fox for stepping up, being the FAAPN rep for the school board that comes every Saturday. And the work that she's done, and I appreciate it if she was added in with the communications with you, Mr. Smith, and with Dr. Delgado. Yes, you did have several members of the community, former mayor, current mayor, hands-on, working with students. I see that you do have some interest there for the Black History Month. I also see that you have something for IEPs. Sitting on the SEAC community, I've spoken with Dr. Delgado and have worked very closely with Dr. Coffin and Dr. Moore, who also sits on that committee. I do have some information that I would like to share with you, Dr. Delgado and Dr. Coffin and Dr. Moore, regarding what the rights and wrongs are and the do's and don'ts for parents that have students with IEPs. And what parents need to understand is we are advocates, but we are board members first. And it is not our role to go in and hold IEPs or do anything amongst. So those will be conversations that will be had to let it be known, well, you know, this is the avenue that you can take with your child. And then parents need to also know is we can advocate for all children, but not just for one. And let's be very careful how we go in and represent our students with special needs. Thank you.
Tyrick.
Oh, I just want to thank you for your leadership. I mean, you're there every Saturday before it starts, and just it's just been amazing to see how the program has grown over the years that I've been on the board, and it's just a tremendous, it takes a whole village and a whole community, and just, your involvement with the community and the kids and your dedication and your whole team. I mean, it's just, you're the voice of FAAPN, but you don't do it alone, and you just have so many people supporting you. So thank you. We really appreciate the work you're doing to support our students and our families.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Fox.
Thomas, you have done just a wonderful amount of work and caring about all of the students that come in, the parents that come in. We have the AKAs that are coming in now. We have engineers and attorneys and what have you. They're doing a wonderful job with the numbers of kids that we're having. I'm glad to hear that the more kids are coming in on Saturdays. Even before you were president, you have been here with us for a long, long time. We used to work together before we were here together.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so very much for all that you're doing. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hull. Next, we have our diversity, equity, and inclusion update.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. It's my pleasure to invite up to the podium Mr. Greg Smith, our incredible Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Mr. Smith.
All right, good evening. To the Board of Education, thank you for having me. Dr. Delgado, thank you for having me, and all the guests that are here in person and then also online. What I would like to do is quickly review some of the goals that we have and some of the progress we're making towards some of our DEI goals for the district. So one of the things that was important in building out the goals for this year, our path for this year, is to acknowledge all of the feedback. Dr. Delgado mentioned some of this before. The feedback, the attention to the work that we were hearing from our community, from our staff, especially from our students. And to align that work and those goals behind our vision statement for the district, which states together, we are a diverse community in Farmington Public Schools is committed to providing each and every learner equitable experiences to explore and develop their passions and interests in order to prepare for their future. Putting an emphasis on each and every learner having this equitable learning experience. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
So a few of the things I'll talk about this evening. This is, again, a deep grab into the work in which my focus and partnerships are in, but certainly not all. And so I want to talk around a comprehensive staff training model that we're working to develop, course expansion, which I'm really excited about, establishing school equity teams to build that platform of the work to solidify and anchor it within our buildings, in our community. Support equitable hiring practice and procedures. That was one of the critical pieces that we saw in much of our stakeholder feedback, student feedback, and just conversations that we were having in and throughout the district relative to representation. And then lastly, the part that honestly gives me the greatest amount of joy is the work in which I am privileged to do and honored to do with our students. And we've got a special group of students here tonight that will follow my presentation with a national presentation in which they made in front of so many of their peers. So the staff training in progress, and the progress is related to the review of our equity action plans. That's the third piece I'm going to talk about. You'll see that there's in-person and online pieces that we're trying to put together in this comprehensive training model. I'm going to say I'm really proud of many of our administrators who have kind of stepped forward and said, hey, you know what, Greg, we don't necessarily need to wait until this is all polished up and brought out. If we have the resources, if we have the skills now, there is definitely a need in my building. And so in that, I am currently providing either monthly or quarterly training to 6 or 7 of our buildings here in the district. In fact, I was at North Farmington, who has me scheduled for every single one of their staff meetings talking around culturally responsive teaching. So some of those focuses are, when I'm in buildings, it's talking around implicit bias, culturally responsive teaching, supportive language, and restorative practices. There are other pieces that we talk about more in I'd say a micro or a tier 2, a smaller group setting, and topics in which we kind of go in there. I'm also privileged, from Dr. Delgado, also privileged that every leadership team meeting, we have had a portion where DEI is at the center of the meeting. And so just as I'm teaching out and working through the professional development with culturally responsive teaching, as leaders, we're working through culturally responsive leadership. And if you were a fly on the wall this past week, you would have heard a lot of engaging conversation around epistemology. Onto the online training module. So this is the part that is really time-consuming in a sense. The good thing is that we have many helpful hands and talented hands within the district to help build out these training modules. We wanted these modules for a few different reasons. One, Greg is just one person. In that, building in and bringing in support, we know can have its limitations. But to be able to click on to a training module and be able to get a 20 to 30 to 45-minute piece relative to some ongoing study and ongoing practice as you build and prepare for lessons, work with communicating with students or parents, and just overall build your practice, that's what we wanted to give our staff the opportunity to do. The good thing in this is the content for these particular areas are already built. If you wanted a copy of the actual presentation, I can send that to you tonight. However, it has not been transitioned or transformed into a module form where Greg or team is speaking and talking and teaching. Right, much of that can be clicked through. So that's one of the goals here for the year. Again, what we'll be focusing on is implicit bias, microaggressions, cultural competency and humility, cultural humility, racial and ethnic identity development. There's a few other topics that we'll be touching based on relative to equality and equity and knowing the difference between that within the course of a classroom. Into the area around progress. Last year, I talked in depth around doing an evaluation and pulling information around our equity audit plans. And so what I was able to do was meet with each principal several times throughout the course of the year, and we set goals relative to our equity action plans. And so we're continuing much of that work this year in monthly meetings, or we try to make it as monthly as possible, but monthly meetings with our administrators to talk around those goals. It's one thing to set a goal, it's another thing to track the goal and to work those metrics and understanding that things change, cultures change, climates change, and how are we adjusting and doing right by what we say we're going to do for the sake of our children, for the sake of our staff and our community. An example of one of the equity action plans. This is actually from Wood Creek. And so we go in, and so the audit may have stated something relative to more productive engagement within the community, or increased active parent engagement by intentionally including diverse parents and community members. And so we set goals around that work, and I come in with very basic questions. What are we doing to impact and influence this work? What has changed? What supports do we need? What depth? Is there a certain area? And so we try to drill down as much as we possibly can. But the good thing is that that conversation is we're having on a more regular basis. I'm going to transition on to one of these pieces you may have heard a couple of weeks ago, but we talked about this last year and bringing this work into and actualizing this work into the work in which we're doing this year. But that is course expansion. I'm happy to announce that we will be reestablishing, and I say reestablished because it's not a new credit. It has been marked as active, but African American history and African American literature within our course. And so we're at the stage of building out that course description. We're at the stage of building out, gaining resources to build out the curriculum, the instructional pieces, and what that might look like. That is within our school district, that is with the support of our instructional department and the departments within our school, the respective departments within our schools. Equal opportunity schools, this has been a long time relationship in which we've had with equal opportunity schools. And what they do is we work on representation of Black and brown or socially low socioeconomic students within our advanced placement, our AP courses. And so we're finalizing that partnership this year, and we're working to do that with a bang. And when I say bang, I don't necessarily mean the numbers going through the roof, but having a plan of sustainability relative to the numbers going through the roof, of conversation in which we're having, of awareness that is going to parents and awareness that's going into families. The truth and what we're finding in this, and what I'm finding in this is that the conversation truly needs to start in middle school. That when we get to high school, this is a very reactive plan in a sense. But are our middle school families and parents aware of the opportunities to them? Have our middle schoolers, students been tapped on the shoulder and say, hey, when you go into your course selection meeting, or when you take this form home, or when you hear from the counselor, I really want you to reach for the stars, all right? And having that conversation and what that looks like. Dr. Delgado and I had a conversation, and he was interested in the longitudinal data of what this looked like over the course of our partnership. You'll see, and I want to you'll see Harrison High School there with just a dot. Sorry, Harrison. But in this, you'll see that after the pandemic, where we've kind of had that lull there, we're starting to make our way back up. And again, the Farmington, our comprehensive high schools, Farmington and North are currently in the process of giving out the student surveys. That information will be interpreted, it will be analyzed, synthesized, and then given to our counselors, our school counselors, provided for our teachers, and that is when those communications will go out. And hopefully we will see an even greater jump in students of color or low socioeconomic students or marginalized students taking advantage of our AP and IB classes. All right, so the purpose of establishing equity-based teams within our schools is to, again, build a platform of the work in which we do. If I could use other words, is build a platform of belonging. Making sure that every student, no matter their background, their race, their creed, their religion, is seen, is heard, and has a voice within our school district in their everyday experiences that they have. Supporters in doing this work, and many that I mentioned relative to the actual district, like RPs, you'll see, restorative practice, those are staff members that are load-bearing, meaning they have a caseload and they have a class of students, or they have a class of students in which they continue to do some of this work in their time permitted or fraction throughout their day. And so we have our restorative practice facilitators in all of our secondary schools. Honestly, they are my right hand in the work, and I'm grateful for them. They do really, really good work in partnership with their central office, their office teams, their principals, their APs, their staff. They are responsible for so many things when life kind of gets thick for some of our students and the experiences are a bit less savory. They are the ones that navigate that, not only with students, but with staff as well. This year, if I can just talk about them a bit further, working with Mr. Paddock in the HR, we had an opportunity to do a RP Light, is what we're going to call it, because RPF training is very comprehensive and in-depth. But with our noon supervisors, right? Many, and I'm speaking as a 7-year veteran principal of Lanigan Elementary, often many of your issues that you may come, whether it's physical aggression or whatever, comes from unstructured times. And so we've got these individuals coming from the community, whether it be mothers or whatever the case, fathers, into this unstructured environment for kids. And so we thought, well, what better opportunity do we have in this PD session that we have to train them up and give them skills and strategies to support the work of our kids and supporting them through those times. Our EILs, or Equity Instructional Leads. These are the individuals that kind of hold this banner, very similar to our ILs, but from the lens of equity, in all of our elementary schools. One of the cool things that this group of dedicated staff members are doing is this year, their focus is on uniformity. And so we're going to work towards that as we commemorate the 60th anniversary of Dr. King's March on Washington. And so in that, every single building will be given, or excuse me, every single K-5 building will be given a lesson plan in a sense, and it's not, but a daily activity and events guide in which we will do and flesh out as a district together. And on that Friday, before and I believe it's a half day, before we release for the holiday, all of our elementary students will be marching at the same time, listening to the same speech. And so bringing that work, again, making it real, and there's follow-up exercises and things of that nature that they'll do. So that's some of the work of our EILs. Again, partners in the work are our staff, our parents, and our community. We just heard from Mr. Hall about all of the things that FAAPN is doing to support the work of our students in and outside of the classroom. There's another concept in which, and this is the last thing I'll talk about relative to school partnerships, although it goes far beyond the list that you see, is a parent IDA. We put a lot of work into our student IDA group, but there is this concept in building out a platform for parents to support the district initiatives around diversity, equity, and inclusion, to give a platform to that work. Now, that is not completely built out. That is still in the planning and idealism phase. I am grateful for the individuals, because what I'd like to do is build out a core team of planning that and what that looks like. I've been in touch with some of the board members about this work. And this idea was not of this year. This started last year. But we're working to kind of actualize and build that skeleton and that foundation. But we want to be able to do it the right way. So that's another thing that may be coming, and I'm hoping in June, when I see you guys again relative to presenting, I will have some artifacts as to that being up and running. All right, lastly on this portion of staff-facing things is staff representation. We talked about that a bit. And so working with the HR department to address some of the pieces as to increasing increasing the ability, or not, it's not necessarily the ability, but it is increasing representation by getting what we do and what we're about and what we represent in front of the people in which we're working to attract. And so, but in that, there's a twofold. There is looking at our systems, our current systems, of how we bring together hiring committees. The conversations we're having around hiring committees, the conversations and the questions that we're asking at job interviews, and so on and so forth. And so what we're working to do is put together a training, a video in a sense, that will be very purposeful and intentional, not very long, but for every single hiring committee to watch, no matter what grade level they are hiring for, no matter what level they're hiring at or subject area they're hiring in, that they would watch this video, and then those discussions would follow. All right, now on to, again, some of the work that I get that is just really, really fun in this. At the beginning of the year, we had an opportunity to take a number of kids down to the Kellogg Center at Michigan State University for the Michigan's Response to Hate Conference. It was a great opportunity for our students to interact with their peers from around the state of Michigan. We were actually a host of Novi schools who actually called and asked if they could ride with us, and that was just a great experience, and we were able to accommodate them as well. We've had an opportunity to take a number of students to the MSAN Student Conference, and we've done this for a long time here in our relationship with MSAN, but it had died down relative to the last 3 or 4 years. But to get it going, we took a wonderful group in which you're going to hear a bit more from tonight. Our MSAN ISJC, our Intersectional Social Justice Collaborative, this is for our middle schools, and they meet 3 or 4 times a year. I'm happy to announce that in January, our middle school students from that diversity club, our ISJC, within East Middle School, will be presenting nationally, a virtual national conference. Our students will be presenting and hosting, so we're really excited about that. Some other works that we do with our students within the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion is our school diversity clubs. Again, if it's in the secondary, it is typically ran by our restorative practice facilitators or counselors. If it's in the the elementary schools, it's typically ran by the EILs or the equity instructional leads, in which we're working to kind of build out that model. Something we're really proud of also in our middle schools is our religious diversity journeys. They go on trips to different temples and synagogues and churches and hear about different religions and how they make their impact and their part in the world. And then lastly is our annual diversity conference. This year, the conference will be held May 14th. I believe that's the Tuesday after Mother's Day. Last year we held it May 13th, and I heard a lot because many of the mothers had to anyway. So we've pushed it back to that Tuesday, and we're looking forward to that work. All right, so without further ado, that is my portion of this presentation. Who I would like to welcome up are our MSAN students who are going to come and finish out the presentation for me to display something in which they have learned and will be implementing in our district.
Good evening, everyone, once again. We are the group of students that went to the MSAN Diversity Conference in Wisconsin. While we were there, we came up with a project that we wanted to present to you, and our project is called For Us, By Us. My name is Cheyenne Weems.
Kara Rhodes.
Daniel Perkins.
Shoni Thomas.
Okay, our goal is to have a student-led training for educators to strengthen relationships, creating a more inclusive environment.
FPS student-led training parallels Farmington Public Schools' mission by creating a safer environment through improving the networking and function between students and faculty alike. Our professional development focuses on creating a more understanding and inclusive environment. With the success of our PD, students and staff will experience an enhanced sense of justice, communication, community, and belonging.
Some of the steps we will be taking will be committing to regular meetings, completing action plan processes, foster an inclusive environment to add allies in the work, research and build content, and construct metrics, engage in the training series to prepare for presenting, identify our audience, and prepare to present/execute our project. Some of the metrics we will be taking will be surveys and reflections that will be held before and after the project.
Our rationale, the student body recognizes the need to improve fairness, communication, and community between students and faculty. In order to truly realize this, students have to be involved in the design and deployment of staff development and trainings that inform student relationships, community building, and equity-focused practices.
Cultivating mutual respect and stronger relationships between students and teachers is a foundational step towards a more inclusive and harmonious educational environment. We are Farmington Public Schools, and this is
For Us, By Us. Thank you. Any questions or comments? No?
Yes, thank you. I do have a question. I'd like to understand from students whether you feel like your administrators, your Board of Education, this district is listening to you, and whether we're being responsive to your needs. And we don't mind what your answer is.
So I personally feel as though many of the adults that I come in contact with understand me very well and treat me very well. I don't have many run-ins with any sort of administration, faculty, or teachers that I feel disrespect me or act odd towards me or anything like that. I can't speak on other students, but I can say that I have observed interactions that don't necessarily look positive and do seem to hint at the idea that faculty doesn't always understand or take the best approach towards students, but I can say that many of my experiences have been positive.
Just a follow-up. Do you guys feel like we're being responsive through the programs that you're involved in? Tell me more about like how important it is or not to continue to promote, awareness around implicit bias and cultural competency and the promotion of diverse equity clubs and extracurricular activities. Is that helpful?
I think that that is extremely helpful. I think that programs and clubs of that nature is what helps to build proper connections and just a good environment overall between students and faculty. I think it bridges people together a lot better, and I think those programs and any sort of club or environment of that nature at all should definitely be continued.
Did all of you attend the Wisconsin conference?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for representing our district so well. You guys speak very well, and I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question. The For Us, By Us, is this something that you are currently working on?
It is.
So this is a training that this is a training that we wanted to come from the students. So helping the staff to understand the students and the people who they're working with on a day-to-day basis. So this is a program that we wanted to instill for us, for the students that this is going to affect, and we wanted it to be done by us. So a training that would be led by us to help implement this.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Thank you so much. Yes, Ms. Smith.
This is for Mr. Smith. But first, I want to say to the students, thank you so much. And there is a company called FUBU, so that reminds me, that's a good ring. Well, I'm kind of dating myself. You probably don't know what FUBU is, but it is For Us, By Us. So I love that you all have taken that initiative to take that motto and use it for yourself. But this is for Mr. Smith, this grown folks talk right here. So, first, Mr. Smith, I would like to say, I want to apologize if I offended you or Mr. Kaufman earlier on through the year. There was some feedback that I received that I came to your meeting and was very disruptive. So if I did anything, I would like to apologize, but I was here. I only came because the community was open for all of us to attend. So I wanted to let the community know that I want to openly apologize if I had done anything to offend you and Mr. Kaufman that will cause any other of my colleagues not to be able to attend any of the buildings in the future. So that's the one I want to do the apology.
Can I ask for, this is the meeting that we held at
Hillside,
last year.
yes. And then I have some questions to follow
Sure,
behind the apology.
I'll speak to that. I don't see a need to apologize whenever we can have board representation. And I think Mrs. Fox, you may have attended as well. That is always a display of support for the things in which our parents or our administration are calling important. And so I don't necessarily, but okay.
So number one, hiring committee. I understand that you and Mr. Paddock are really, really working hard. Mr. Paddock has been working with you to go through our HBCUs for the hiring process and some other avenues. But I'd like to know who is included on that hiring committee. Do you have people that would not own, all ethnicities? I'm not just looking for African Americans. As you all know, that I am part Latino as well. So do you have people on that committee that would look at people of all ethnicities, not only African Americans, Latinos, but Asians, Jewish community? So that's number one. Number two, is there a diverse group of individuals, including the hiring process, such as, I know in some districts, they have some board members. We have not had that in many, many years. So who is sitting on these committees?
Sure.
That's number two. And number three, do you have a percentage of students that take part in the restorative practice? Do you have a number that you could throw out there? How many people take part in that? And is your restorative practice team, are they diverse? Because our students of color have issues, and you probably have concerns. Our students will probably be addressed by them. But what about the other students that are non-minority?
Sure.
Thank you.
So relative to the work that's going on with HR, these are extending efforts that started, which is our talent development team in a sense. And so these are not isolated to Mr. Paddock or myself, but these are efforts actually that started with Kathy Smith and that team. And so that team is still meeting. That team is still, and we've done some work, and we're continuing to do some work around logos and so on and so forth. But we know and we see that there is a need to address this within how we're hiring and things that we are considering before we're hiring. Now, that team that is made up of that talent is a multicultural team. So that kind of answers questions 1 and 2. And your third question was around restorative practice facilitators?
Well, that's number 4. But number 3 was how many students actually take part in going in, if you have a rough number, how many go and visit, the restorative practice teachers?
Okay, yeah, so each restorative practice facilitator has a caseload of students. And that caseload may go from 15 to 35, 40 students. But it also shifts throughout the course of the year based on the student need, right? Whether we are looking at SEL, whether we're looking at attendance, where we're looking at behavioral troubles and things of that nature. We can also be looking on the other end of things, students that have made a drastic turnaround, students that are looking for more leadership opportunities and so on and so forth. So that can change. But then there's also their attention to when there is an incident and there needs to be a level of positive reinforcement. There needs to be a level of restorativeness that happens. If in the event of a meeting, when a student returns from suspension, a circle, things that happen within both students and staff. This year, my restorative practice, I don't want to say my, but the restorative practice facilitators have initiated and ran circles with both students and staff in that manner. So to give a number of how many kids, I know on a daily basis their days are full, from the start of the day to the end of the day. Many of the students have great relationships with them where they depend on them and they confide in them with issues and things in which they're holding to get them through the course of the day.
And I have two more, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Number 5, I know students do go and report things to staff. And we, as mandated reporters, are they going back and sharing with the staff, the principals in those buildings, that there are some issues so that it can come back to the superintendent as well as his cabinet? And number 6, we do know, I mean, we have not really, the superintendent has recently addressed the elephant in the room. Are we working with the students that were involved in what happened at the Farmington High School and are we working on restorative practice with them as well as with those hockey students too? Because that's another issue that we had to address as well.
Yeah, so when they're to 6, when there is a situation or incident that takes place, many of our administrators will have already pulled in our restorative practice facilitators. A part of our work is not necessarily punitive actions for student behavior, right? But it is ways in which we're looking to reinforce positive behaviors, ways in which we're looking to restore. But we understand that in restoration, both sides have to agree and come to a sense of understanding in doing so. And so they are very heavily involved in that work. That's your answer to 6. Relative to the situation at Farmington High School, I can't speak to that because I have not necessarily been involved in that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate you students for standing there and hanging in there. I just have one more comment. I appreciate all of the work that you're doing, Mr. Smith, and that the students are also doing and will be leading going forward. I just wanted to acknowledge that I'm really appreciative of the work and the effort associated with getting more students of color and low-income students into AP and IB. And I can say that I've personally seen lots of increases in levels of communication around that as a parent.
Excellent.
I get letters in the mail, and I also get emails encouraging me to consider AP and IB for my students. And I'm guessing that's going on across the district with parents and students who are demonstrating that they're ready for that next level of coursework. So thank you for all of the work that you're doing there.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
I also very much appreciate the intentional effort to develop an equity plan based upon the equity audit results unique to each individual building's needs. And even going so far as to include the lunchtime helpers in that process so that they too have the language and the skills that is consistent with the rest of the restorative practices being utilized in the buildings.
Absolutely.
So,
We've seen our leadership take complete ownership of those plans, teachers to take complete ownership of those plans and work to make this equitable learning experience we talk about real. Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that.
And thank you, students, also for stepping up and helping with this.
And I'll add one last thing, and this is, I know you guys have been standing for a minute. But we talk about actualizing the experiences of our kids. So this For Us, By Us, and this training in which they're having, they will teach it this year in this room to all of our administrators during the leadership meeting. And so they're going to lead administrators through PD, through professional development, before we kind of cast them out into the district next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Just one final thing, if I may. So I too want to extend my sincere thank you to Mr. Smith. Just incredible leadership, partnering with all of our cabinet and our directors around the district. You can see that this is a labor of love for him, and what he shared tonight is just the tip of the iceberg. He has 30 other ideas that he wants to wrap his arms around. But it's because of his leadership and the collaboration with our directors, with our cabinet, with our principals, with our teachers, and of course, as you can see, with our students, that we're actually living into this vision. DEI is not a one-day training. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a philosophy in Farmington Public Schools, and Mr. Smith is a huge part of that. So thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you again.
Those are the end of our district updates.
Next, we have public comment. There are cards on the table at the back of the room. If you're interested in making a public comment, please fill out the card and place it in the ceramic container over to my left. During the public comment portion of our board meeting, members of the community are welcome to address the board. Each community member will have up to 3 minutes to speak. A timer on the screen will display the 3-minute countdown for each speaker during public comment. Thank you for honoring this guideline. We wish to remind our community that this is a meeting of the board held in public to provide transparency, but this is not a public meeting. As a result, we will respectfully listen to your comments, but will not respond or engage in dialogue with you in this particular venue. However, please be assured that we are listening closely to every comment and that a member of the Board of Education and/or our Superintendent, Dr. Delgado, would be happy to speak with you after tonight's meeting to set up a time to engage in dialogue together and further address your concerns. First, we have Kara Dinkel. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kara Danko. I think anyone could say that special education has been ignored and forgotten in Michigan public schools for a long time. I was hopeful that things would change in Farmington from when I was in school 25 years ago, but sadly, they're still quite the same in most regards. I know my children are getting the services that I have pushed for and I have fought for. And if I did not bring the reading problems up, they would have never been addressed. So, we're having ongoing issues at Farmington STEAM. My son's IEP has not been followed since day one of school in August. I'm still waiting to be assured that the IEP is being followed. The teacher was in the room and not following the IEP or doing the work with him. So now he is suffering the consequences of that. The only reason anything has changed is because I'm paying attention. I'm asking questions. I'm watching. I'm listening. I'm asking my child what's happening, and he is able to tell me. I know a lot of special ed students do not have that ability to tell their parents what's happening. When I started to understand there was a problem at the end of October, I took action immediately. I walked straight to the office. The only reason anything is being addressed is because Dr. Moore has learned my name through email. She knows that I will not settle for the "we're looking into it" answer. When you say there's a problem, it's always "we're looking into it, we're working on it, it will get better, don't worry." So it's December. The problem that I brought up October 27th is still not resolved. We've had ongoing meetings. Still nothing has changed. Farmington STEAM is quite the place to be. People love it. People want to be there. There's a line of 700 kids behind you who will take your spot. But everyone who is there, teachers, administrators, secretaries, lunch people, everyone there knows there's big problems. Special ed is not what it should be at Farmington STEAM. They all say we're working to make it better, but those changes haven't happened. Teachers stop me in the hallway and say, "Thank you for pushing. We know that you're asking questions. We know you're trying to get help." These are teachers who don't even have my students. They see me there every day, trying to make a difference, trying to push, trying to get answers. They're thanking me because they say that their calls for help have gone unanswered. The only time anyone seems to pay attention is when an IEP meeting is coming, and they know they'll have to talk to the parents. I encourage someone to help make a change for special education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Ernest Broughton. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. My name is Ernest Bruton, and I'm the father of Ernest and Dorian Bruton, who both attend North Farmington High School. I just want to start by saying My family and I, we came to Farmington Hills not only for the beautiful city, but because of the, at the time, highly rated school system. With our sons both having IEPs, we were looking for a school district that would give our children all the resources that they would need so that they could reach the highest level of success in their lives. Unfortunately, the last 3 years have been less than stellar. Before I really get into this, I just want to thank Mr. Thomas Hall from the FAAPN. He stepped up 2 weeks ago. He's talked to my wife. My wife was here as well. And he let us know about the tutoring sessions that go on Saturday. So I just want to thank him for what he's done. However, in early November, my wife reached out to our son's teacher to express her concern with the fact that the teacher assistant had been absent for over a week. Dayla, our son, is asked if he was given any help in any of his classes and who was the person who helped. On more than a few occasions, our son would reply that he would not receive any help, or the help wasn't that helpful. Okay, and when we reached out to the teacher, we found out that the teacher replied back to us saying that the assistant had been gone for a few days, but unfortunately, we found out he was actually gone for weeks. And then upon that, we also found out that he left the district totally. So when we asked the teacher for more additional help, unfortunately, her reply was, she's only one person. Now, I'm not mad at her for making a statement like that because I understand that her workload is heavy. However, there wasn't any resources that she offered to the family. Now, there were a lot of things that went wrong with that, I feel, and I'm here to advocate for my son, Dorian. And if there's anyone else here that feels that they're in the same shoes, I'm advocating for them and those that are going unspoken as well. One, if there's a sudden drop with the children's grades in the class, why aren't the parents notified sooner? We all know that the semester is only so long and time is of the essence. Two, if there are any changes in students' resources, i.e. paras, teachers, classes, etc., why weren't we informed of these changes faster? In fact, we were not informed until we reached out to the teacher. And to me, that is a form of frauding the government and disenfranchising the student and parents. These services are paid for by the federal government, and taking the money without issuing the services is a direct violation to the student and to the family. Three.
I'm sorry, sir. Happy to talk with you after the meeting.
I hope someone does. My wife was here 2 weeks ago, and nobody reached out to her.
We'll be happy to talk with you after.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Eugene Greenstein.
Good evening. I sent in my written comments, so I won't bother to read them, but given that this is performance review time, it would be nice to know what the board's objectives are. As a taxpayer, as I've said many times before, we ought to have clear objectives, like the Farmington schools in 5 years will be #1 in reading, #1 in math. Now, maybe that's not possible, but what's the plan to get where we're going? Because I don't know how Dr. Delgado knows how he's judged when we don't have clear objectives. And maybe we'll find out in a few minutes. I also found out that by FOIA that we only have 50 tutors, but we have some 260 seniors who don't read at grade level per the SAT, and the Michigan step test gives the same result. And we got a huge number of students below 12th grade that have reading deficiencies. And it's great news that, K through 2 is now doing phonics, so that's a positive. But what about all the rest? So what are we doing about it? I mean, maybe there's a problem. We can't afford it. There isn't enough students at Grand Valley State to be tutors. I have no idea. But you told us in the beginning of the meeting that all the issues are discussed here by the board. None of these issues have been discussed when I've been coming to these meetings, and I come to most. So I think we can do a better job on academics. And Dr. Delgado, every number means something. So if you don't like the F or you don't like the D, hey, that's fine, but there's a reason for it. and the other schools are getting graded on the same standard. So we need to work on those difficulties. They may be hard, they may be difficult, but we need to work on them and not ignore them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Bill Lubaway.
Okay, thank you. I started this presentation last time, didn't make it. And what I did was I looked at trying to communicate better what my communication problem is with the board. And I am certain that the board has a communication problem with the community. And so what I've got is a dialogue here. What we've got here is failure to communicate. Parent says, are our kids learning at an appropriate rate? School. This year, we've implemented a new phonics program for kindergarten to second grade. Some of the fourth and fifth grade teachers have improvised and are using this phonics material to help kids who are reading below grade level. We are working to close individual kids' learning gaps with high dosage tutoring and push-in, pull-out intervention. Parent. According to M-STEP tests, my seventh grader lags behind 43% of her peers who are proficient in literacy. What are the school's plans to close this gap? When will this happen? School. We can't hire hundreds of tutors to catch up all our kids. So we have joined other Oakland County schools to, quote, focus on subject-specific instructional practices that provide a resource-agnostic approach, close quotes. Parent, I think you said that you are teaching our teachers to teach so they can teach our kids. What are you doing for my seventh grade student? When? How will this help her SAT score for college? School board. The board's first goal is to monitor student growth and achievement in literacy and numeracy quarterly and ask questions and make decisions about the district's investment in teaching practices to make sure they work to address student learning gaps and needs. And it basically comes down to what Huge talked about. This board does not have hard and fast goals. So I put together another example. This is a football field, the way you seem to envision it. You notice it doesn't have goals at either end. It doesn't have hard and fast goals. This board doesn't believe in those goals, and they don't have any. So you say, hey, we're doing okay, or we're going to do better. That doesn't work. It doesn't cut it. You got $170 million to make things better. Just do it.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. David Villar.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I guess I'm going to go through the specific purposes that I think the board can advocate and elevate. Community engagement and focusing on children's academic improvement. So there are all sorts of initiatives out there, but we need to find a way to elevate the parents' engagement so that the children will be more engaged in the science and math learning. As always, an update on parent surveys will be most appreciated. Improvement on the student lunches, improving the quality. If you see other cultures in other parts of the world where the students perform above average, you'll see a correlation with high-quality school lunches. Promoting DEI, which is being done, and I'm looking forward to some of the effective strategies that were just mentioned, especially in June. Addressing parent needs, dealing with children's focus, and so from
EI to IEPs to just kids having trouble staying focused because of parent issues and so forth, we need some strategies because 90% of a student's improvement is based upon the parents' involvement. So you guys can do everything right, but if the kid goes home to a dysfunctional situation, it still is going to be hard for the child to do well. And we always need to make sure that no outside political interference to advance partisan agendas, especially for national elections, especially for those holding extremist views, should be tolerated. So the season's coming, winter's coming, we need to take care of that. Although the end goal is that we should not need any special considerations, where there are persistent disparities, by definition, a need to address it is required. So for those, again, who are critical yet not offering relevant specific solutions, it is clear that their purpose is to advance a narrative, whether they're being provocative, insulting, or tone deaf. That narrative is to keep things the way that they used to be. And we have to understand that that era is ended. Learning is a evolving and changing process now. We have online, AI, algorithms, social media, instant access to technology, and exponential processing of information. So stuff that may work this year may not be as effective in years to come, and I'll stop there.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Any further public comment? See no further public comment is now closed. All right, moving on to our action items. First, we need to amend our prior approval of the refrigerated food service delivery trucks recommendation. Yes, Ms. Weems.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. The refrigerated food service delivery truck recommendation was brought to the Audit and Finance Committee several weeks ago and was recommended for approval. It came to the board and was recommended for approval, was approved. Unfortunately, the amount was incomplete. And so I'd like to move to amend the incomplete total cost previously approved for the purchase of refrigerated food service delivery trucks at the December 5th, 2003 regular Board of Education meeting from $87,060 to $317,652.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Weems to amend the amount to include the actual total, seconded by Ms. Heinrich. Is there any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead with a roll call vote.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion passes. Next, we have the high school course proposals. Yes, Mr. Rich.
I move to approve the proposed high school courses as presented and discussed at the December 5th, 2023 Board of Education meeting. These courses include film analysis, sports literature and composition, mystery, fiction and true crime, graphic novels and the visual narrative, senior symposium, junior forum, and personal finance.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rich to approve the high school course proposals, seconded by Ms. Weems. Any discussion? All right. Then let's go ahead for a vote. All in favor?
Point of order, can we please have a
Roll call?
roll call?
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Fantastic.
All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we will move into our superintendent evaluation. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
At the closed session, the process for evaluating the superintendent is consensus, and if there's not a consensus of the whole, then there's a process of consensus by majority. So I move to approve the process of consensus and/or consensus by majority of the superintendent evaluation.
Support?
Motion by Ms. Heinrich to approve the process by which we complete the superintendent evaluation, supported by Mr. Rich. Roll call vote? Discussion? Discussion? Sorry, any discussion around the process?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the superintendent evaluation is required annually, and it assigns a rating of highly effective, effective, minimally effective, or ineffective. 40% of the evaluation is related to student growth. This is the largest goal for the superintendent, and that is pretty self-explanatory, what the growth rates are, and there's a rubric for it. The performance categories not related to student growth are measured based on an evaluation tool. The district uses the Michigan Association of School Boards Superintendent Evaluation Tool, which is a research-based model leveraging expertise from the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the National Association of Secondary School Principals, the American Association of School Administrators, and the National Policy Board for Education Administrators. And it provides rules around what to score, the evidence to review to reduce bias, and how to score. Scoring is usually based on consensus, as is normal, rather than an averaging, because averaging does not reflect the views of the board and does not provide for clear direction to the superintendent. Consensus is a settlement on a score that all members can live with. As an example, some members may have, based on the rubric, score a rating of effective versus highly effective. It would be inappropriate to average those scores. They come up with numbers. It would be better to agree as a whole on what the scores are, or to come up with a majority rule on that, which is what Mrs. Heinrich is proposing that we vote on today, which I support.
All right, then let's go ahead and vote.
Ms. Smith?
We're just voting on the process.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries. This is the process for the superintendent evaluation.
Yes. So, we have, all of us, gone through all of the artifacts provided by Dr. Delgado to provide evidence of his self-evaluation, in which he provided his scores. And we have also reviewed the information that provides a score of 3 for the district test scores. That component is still 40% of the evaluation. And based upon the test score data, it's very clear that that is a 3 effective. We have, in our closed meeting, gone through each of the particular areas of the evaluation and have come to consensus or majority consensus on each of the areas. And as a result, we are in agreement that in each area, do I need to read each of the areas? Okay. So we have in the area of governance and board relations, policy involvement 4, goal development 4, information 4, materials and background 4, board questions 4, board development 4, and that gives us a category rating of 4, is my understanding. Next, in the area of community relations, Parent feedback, a rating of 4, which is highly effective. In communications and with community, highly effective. Community feedback, highly effective. Media relations, highly effective. District image, highly effective. Approachability, highly effective. And that is overall a score of highly effective. In the category of staff relations, for staff feedback, highly effective. Staff communications, highly effective. Personnel matters, highly effective. Delegation of duties, highly effective. Recruitment, highly effective. And labor relations, highly effective. And finally, visibility in the district, also highly effective, or again, a highly effective rating in that category. Under the category of business and finance, for budget development and management, highly effective. Budget reports, highly effective. Financial controls, highly effective. Facility management, highly effective. Resource allocation, highly effective, for an overall rating of highly effective in that category. In the category of instructional leadership, for performance evaluation system, a rating of highly effective. Building level leadership, highly effective. Staff development, highly effective. School improvement, highly effective. Curriculum, highly effective. Instruction, highly effective. Student feedback, highly effective. Student attendance, highly effective. Support for students, highly effective. Professional knowledge, also highly effective, for an overall rating of highly effective in instructional leadership. And then, Mr. Rich, can you help me out with this last portion?
Sure. So looking at the last portion, just one moment, I've got this right here. So it then goes into a formula for the ratings, with 20% of the weight for the overall evaluation being governance and board relations, 15% being community relations, 15% staff relations, 20% business and finance, 30% instructional leadership. And so that part of the professional practice rating all gets totaled into a score, which then gets put into the professional practice section of the evaluation score, which is broken down as 50% is the professional practice, 40% is student growth, as we've already said, and then that brings us to progress toward district-wide goals of 10%. And if you'd like to do the scoring for that one as well, I don't believe we listed that.
So for the progress toward district-wide goals, during our closed session, we agreed upon a score of 4 as well.
Great. And so going through there, that's the compiling of the evaluation, looking at all of these with, sorry, I just had that pulled up. Looking at all of these moving forward, this does result in a highly effective rating overall for the superintendent.
Congratulations, Dr. Delgado.
Thank you.
So this would need to be voted on and approved by the board.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and do you need an additional motion?
Yes.
Yes, we have the
Ms.
motion.
Weems?
I move that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's consensus rating of highly effective in accordance with the Michigan Association of School Boards evaluation instrument.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, seconded by Ms. Heinrich, to approve the rating of highly effective for Dr. Delgado based upon our utilization of the MASB Superintendent Evaluation Tool. Roll call?
Ms. Smith?
No.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, Dr. Delgado. You had set 4 key goals for yourself this year based upon the goals that we set as a board and provided more than ample evidence to support your attainment of each of your goals as well as every category listed in this evaluation. And we thank you for your dedication to our district and congratulate you.
Dr. Blau, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Smith?
I'd like to say, this is nothing personal against the superintendent, but it is my job and my role as a board member, and I've had this conversation just before this meeting started with Dr. Delgado. No one is perfect, and I think there's some growth that needs to be done, and Dr. Delgado actually agreed. He was very supportive, and he listened, and that's what I appreciate. He didn't take it personal. He understood. But there's things that we need to fix, mainly starting with this board. Dr. Delgado has had some conversations with me. As a matter of fact, in the past couple of days, I have been working with Dr. Delgado. I appreciate him being here. I appreciate this board's work in doing this. It was not an easy task, and this was not an easy decision to make. But I'm not an enabler. I don't enable my children. I don't enable the people that I work for or with. And I think that it is our job and our role to hold the superintendent accountable. And I think he agrees, and he knows what we are looking for and wanting out of this community. So for the public, I don't need anybody cheering, yippee, hey, hey, Ms. Smith did this. This was very hard for me. I hope that I can eventually get back to what the relationship that I had with him in the beginning. This is a job. This ain't a friendship. But at the end of the day, it is nothing personal. But that's my decision. So thank you.
Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make mention of one more thing. You mentioned that the superintendent had goals. He had 4 goals this year. I just wanted to make it clear that those were additional goals. So the performance evaluation that is required, that we use, that we've decided to use. This tool.
Yes.
Has a number of goals already baked into it. So they're related to student growth. They're related to community relations, they're related to staff relations, they're related to governance overall,
community,
business and finance and instructional leadership. And based on all of those things, there are pretty clear rubrics around what it means to be minimally effective, ineffective all the way up to highly effective. And it describes in detail the evaluation and evidence that's required in each of those, the criteria, and it's pretty, much of it is pretty self-explanatory, especially the student growth portion of it, which is 40% of the evaluation. So I just wanted to make it clear, because I've heard a number of times that there are no goals. There are goals. We are required annually, at least annually,
a binder full of goals.
Right, to evaluate the superintendent. And so student data and growth is very important, and that's reflective of the fact that it's 40% of the evaluation. So again, I just wanted to make that clear, and I think that the entire board is very supportive of the work that is being done across the district. I think there are some nuances around, 3s versus 4s and all of that sort of stuff, but I think we're in a good spot, and I support what we did today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rich.
Just one thing I wanted to bring up is that this evaluation and scoring isn't just reflective of Dr. Delgado. It also is a reflection on his cabinet, on our incredible staff, on every single person in our Farmington Public Schools family who come to work every day for the betterment of our students. And so not only is this a highly effective rating for our superintendent, it's also the impact and direction that he is taking our district. So I want that to be reflected, not just here for our one employee of the school board, but also a reflection on our district as a whole.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yeah, this evaluation rubric is something that we used to evaluate our superintendent. All of the employees in the district are also evaluated by rubrics, and a highly effective rating is something to be proud of, but that doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement. In a good organization, every year there's new goals and there's new targets and there's always room for improvement. So even though, things are going well, we want to continue with building on our strengths and continuing to improve. And one of the strengths of this board in this district is I think that we all have a seat at the table. When we use those seats at the table to have meaningful discussions and how to move the district forward, that's where we're going to see this continuous process of improvement.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move on then. Items from the treasurer.
Thank you. I move that we approve the expenditures as presented.
Support.
A motion from Ms. Weems, supported by Mr. Rich, to approve the expenditures as presented. Any discussion?
Just a point of information, those expenditures were presented in the board packet.
Yes.
The Board of Education.
Yes, thank you.
Just to clarify that.
Okay. Let's go ahead with the roll call vote.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Weems?
Yes.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yes.
I myself am a yes. Dr. Blau?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Fantastic. Next, we move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Rich.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Rich to approve the consent agenda as listed, supported by Ms. Weems. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Do we have any reports from board representatives? Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yes, I had the opportunity to attend the Oakland County School Board Association meeting on Wednesday, December 6th. It was a joint meeting with school board representatives and superintendents, and Dr. Delgado attended in addition to myself. At the meeting, Mark Katz gave talked about the upcoming National School Board Association Advocacy Institute in January. And that is something that I'm really excited about because myself and Dr. Blau, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Are going to attend this thing, and there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. And further down, the advocacy, the Oakland County School Board Association gives scholarships to 5 school districts, and Farmington was one of the winners. And because Dr. Blau has attended the legislative committee meetings regularly, she will be able to apply for reimbursement. The school district is paying for our conference fees, but myself and Dr. Blau are paying our own traveling expenses and our accommodation expenses because it's a big conference. There was a keynote speaker. Dr. David Arson was a professor emeritus of educational policy and educational administration from Michigan State University. And he spoke on public schools as centers of thriving communities. And one of the things that he talked about is the North Star, is the School Finance Research Collaborative Study that in one of my first meetings that I attended with Oakland County School Board Association, we learned about this. And this is really a wonderful document that is moving our state in the right direction. The people in Lansing are looking at it and implementing some of the practices to help with school funding. We're not where we need to be, but we are definitely moving in the right direction. And there were 24 of 29 school districts that were present at that meeting.
Thank you.
I also attended the student roundtable, and I know Cheyenne Weems gave a wonderful presentation. She's just a sophomore, and the president and vice president for student roundtable were absent, and she just leads the meeting with such grace. But I was really impressed with Mr. Greg Smith came, and he had the students go around. He broke them in groups, and he had 3 corners and then a 4th one, and they went around and he had questions. He said, and he gave Post-it notes, and they put their individual responses. One of the questions was, what do you wish adults knew about issues at school and in the community? And I went around and I just looked at the things that the students wrote, and as they went around, they really added to it. I was really impressed with it. Another question was, what questions do you have regarding DEI? And they had a lot of questions on there. A third one was, what are you and your peers currently discussing regarding these issues? And then the 4th thing is, what suggestions do you have? And it was really, I'm just so impressed with the level of engagement of our students and the kind of the depth of their remarks and things. And then they really had a whole group conversation and a really meaningful conversation. So it's wonderful work that Mr. Smith is doing, with not only the staff and the training and his presentation, but with the students and the outreach. I'm excited about the outreach to the parents, and just something that he developed by the need of, and he wants to say something.
Yeah, I just want to add one piece. I thank you for acknowledging that. I also want to share that work is a part of that collaboration with our strategic planning. And so that came directly from our strategic planning department and work in which we're working to do to kind of build this bridge of equity and hear through the voices of our students. So thank you for acknowledging that.
All right, and the strategic planning is not just school people, but there's a lot of community members and parents on that also. So really listening to our whole community.
Thank you. Any other board representative reports this evening? All righty. Then we are ready to adjourn. Thank you all very much.